His face was pale, his hands trembling, and my phone was in his grip. The screen glowed between us like a blade, slicing through every lie I had told. I could not move. I could not breathe. My heart hammered so violently that I could hear its echo in my ears. Ethan's eyes met mine, filled with disbelief, heartbreak, and a fury that chilled my soul. The air felt heavy, thick with the truth he had just seen. And in that moment, I knew, nothing in my life would ever be the same again. Before we continue, I want to take a quick moment to appreciate every single person watching. To all my amazing subscribers, thank you for being the heart of this channel. And to my new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, welcome, and I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support is the fuel that keeps this channel alive. Remember to engage, comment your thoughts below, and share what you feel as this story unfolds. Now, let us begin. My name is Rachel Myers, a 34-year-old woman from Austin, Texas. I had been married for 9 years to Ethan, a quiet, kind-hearted man who had given me stability when my world was chaos. We met in our mid-20s, me, a barista trying to rebuild my life after a string of bad relationships, and him, a construction supervisor with strong hands and an even stronger sense of loyalty. He loved me with a sincerity I did not know how to return. Our marriage was not perfect, but it was peaceful, until peace began to feel like emptiness. I remember when the silence between us started to stretch too long, when the touches became routine, and when I began scrolling through my phone late at night, searching for something I could not name. That something appeared one afternoon in the form of Dylan Hart. He was a new client at the interior design firm where I worked. He had a magnetic confidence, dark hair, green eyes, and that kind of smile that seemed to pull you into its orbit. The first time he complimented my ideas for his lake house, I laughed a little too long. He noticed. And that was the beginning of a fire neither of us intended to light. It started harmlessly, texts about work, design choices, color palettes. But soon, the messages became longer, deeper, personal. He asked about my marriage, about what made me happy. And when I confessed that I did not really know anymore, something shifted. I began waiting for his name to pop up on my screen more than I waited for Ethan to come home. Our messages turned playful, flirty, and then dangerously intimate. I told myself it was just words. But words have weight, and these ones carried me towards something irreversible. One rainy Thursday evening, Dylan texted, "You look beautiful when you're frustrated about details." I had been sending him mirror selfies of fabric samples, completely innocent in my mind, until I realized what he saw was not fabric. It was me. And he wanted me. That night, I told Ethan I needed to work late at the office. Instead, I drove to Dylan's apartment. The city lights blurred through the rain on my windshield, and my heart thudded with guilt and excitement all at once. When he opened the door, he looked at me as if I was the only woman in the world. His hand brushed my cheek, and for a brief, sinful moment, I forgot everything I stood to lose. We crossed a line that night. And once crossed, there was no turning back. What began as a single night turned into weeks of stolen afternoons, whispered calls, and messages that made my heart race faster than my conscience could keep up. I became skilled at deception, deleting texts, clearing call logs, smiling at Ethan like nothing was wrong. But guilt has a scent, it lingers, it clings. Ethan began noticing the way I avoided his eyes, the way I jumped when my phone buzzed. He would ask gentle questions, "Are you all right? Work stressing you again?" And I would nod, pretending exhaustion when it was really shame eating me alive. Then came the night everything fell apart. I had fallen asleep on the couch, my phone beside me. Ethan came home late from a job site. I woke up to the sound of his footsteps, the room dimly lit by the glow of the television. He picked up my phone absent-mindedly, he just wanted to plug it in for charging. But then the screen lit up. A message from Dylan. "I still taste you." It was like time stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I opened my eyes to see Ethan frozen, staring at the words. His face went from confusion to horror to a kind of quiet devastation I had never seen before. When his eyes met mine, I saw a man breaking right in front of me. "Rachel," his voice was barely a whisper. "What is this?" My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I could not breathe. I could not speak. The air between us felt suffocating, thick with guilt. He threw the phone on the couch, the sound echoing like a gunshot. He took a step back, his eyes full of disbelief. "How long?" Still, I could not answer. The truth was written all over my face. The silence that followed was worse than any screaming. He turned away, ran his hands through his hair, and let out a sound that was not quite a cry, not quite a yell, just pure agony. I wanted to explain, to beg, to undo everything. But there was no undoing it. The messages told the story better than I ever could. The man who had trusted me blindly now saw me for what I was, a liar. That night, Ethan did not shout. He did not hit. He simply looked at me like a stranger and walked out of the room. The click of the door closing behind him was the sound of my world ending. I sat there on the couch, staring at my phone, at the messages that had cost me everything. And as tears fell silently down my face, I realized something cruel. Betrayal does not begin when you are caught. It begins the moment you start hiding. The night Ethan saw the messages, I thought the worst had already happened. But I was wrong. The worst came the morning after, when silence turned into fury, and my husband, the man who once whispered promises into my skin, could no longer stand to look at me. He had not come to bed that night. I heard the front door open and close around 2 a.m., but I did not know if he had gone for a drive or if he simply needed to breathe away from me. When I woke up the next morning, the coffee pot was still warm, and there was an untouched mug sitting on the counter. It was the smallest detail, but it broke something in me. Ethan never left without coffee. Never. When I walked into the living room, he was standing by the window, fully dressed, his jaw tight, eyes red-rimmed. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might faint. "Ethan," I whispered. He turned slowly, his expression empty, yet I could feel the storm brewing behind his stillness. He did not answer me. He just stared. That silence was more terrifying than any scream. I tried to take a step forward, but he lifted a hand, wordlessly stopping me. Then, in a voice hoarse and low, he asked, "How could you?" There was no anger in his tone, just disbelief. And that hurt even more. My voice cracked. "I do not know what to say." "You do not have to say anything," he said, looking past me like he was searching for something to hold on to. I saw everything. I read every word. He walked to the table and picked up my phone, scrolling through messages that I wished I could erase from existence. "You told him you missed his hands," he said, his voice trembling. "You told him you felt alive with him." Alive. What does that even mean, Rachel? Were you dead with me? My lips parted, but I could not form a response. Every word would have sounded like an excuse. "I gave you everything I had," he continued, pacing now, his voice rising. "Every ounce of love, every bit of trust. And you threw it away for some man who said the right words through a screen." The shame burned through me. I wanted to scream that I had not planned it, that I had just been lonely, that I never meant to destroy us. But meaning does not matter when damage is already done. He finally stopped pacing and looked at me again. His eyes glistened. Was it worth it? The question sliced through me. Tears fell before I could stop them. "No," I whispered. "It was not. I swear it was not." He let out a bitter laugh. "Then why?" There it was, the question that had no real answer. I had asked myself the same thing so many times. Why did I risk everything for someone who only wanted pieces of me? Why did I let loneliness disguise itself as passion? I sank to the couch, my hands trembling. "I felt invisible," I said quietly. "You stopped seeing me, Ethan. You stopped touching me like you used to. I tried to tell you, but you were always working, always tired." He shook his head, tears spilling now. So you found someone else to make you feel seen? I covered my face with my hands. I am sorry. Sorry? His voice cracked. Sorry does not undo what I saw. He turned away, rubbing his temples, trying to calm himself. The man I loved looked broken, and I was the one who had shattered him. Then he did something I never expected. He laughed. It was hollow, chilling, the kind of laugh that comes from pain too deep for words. You know what is crazy, he said. I still want to protect you. Even now. Even after this. I looked up, confused. I deleted those messages, he said. I could not bear the thought of anyone else reading them. I did not want anyone to see what you did. That is how twisted love can be. Those words pierced me. He had protected me even in betrayal. And I had not deserved it. Hours passed without another word. He stayed in the living room while I sat in the bedroom, numb, staring at the wall. I kept hoping he would come in, that he would tell me it could be fixed, that we could find our way back. But deep down, I knew we could not. By evening, the sun had begun to set. The house felt smaller, the air heavier. I heard drawers opening and closing. When I stepped into the hallway, Ethan was standing over an open suitcase. My voice trembled. What are you doing? He did not look at me. Packing your things. I froze. Please, do not do this. He finally turned to me, his expression unreadable. You made that choice when you brought him into our marriage. I ended it, I said quickly, desperate. It is over. It meant nothing. If it meant nothing, then why did it destroy everything? His voice thundered this time, full of hurt and rage that he had held in for too long. I flinched. Tears blurred my vision. I made a mistake, Ethan. You made several, he said, zipping the suitcase shut. And I cannot live in the same house with a liar. Not after this. He walked past me, brushing my shoulder. His touch used to feel warm, now it burned like punishment. I followed him to the doorway, still pleading. Ethan, please, do not throw us away. We can go to counseling, I will do anything. I swear I will. He stopped, hand on the doorknob, and looked back at me one last time. You already threw us away, Rachel. The moment you let him touch you, you chose your side. Then he walked out. The sound of the door slamming behind him echoed through the house like thunder. I sank to the floor, my body shaking with sobs that came from a place I did not know existed. I screamed into my palms, begging for time to rewind, for a chance to erase everything. But there was no going back. That night, I called Dylan. He picked up on the third ring, his tone cautious. Rachel, what is going on? You sound awful. He knows, I whispered. A pause. Then a quiet curse. What did he say? He told me to leave. He exhaled sharply. Listen, Rachel. Maybe it is best if we give things space for a while. I froze. Space? I cannot get involved in your marriage drama, he said. You know I never wanted this to get messy. Messy. That word hit me like a slap. I was drowning, and the man I risked everything for was already walking away. Dylan, I said, choking on my tears, I have nowhere to go. I am sorry, he murmured. I cannot do this right now. And then he hung up. I stared at my phone, disbelief and nausea churning inside me. The walls of my world had collapsed in a single day, my marriage, my affair, my pride, everything gone. I spent the night on the floor beside my packed suitcase, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Ethan did not come home. Dylan did not call back. And I realized something brutal in that darkness. When you betray love, you end up alone with the echo of your own choices. As dawn broke, I sat by the window watching the light crawl across the sky. My reflection stared back at me, hollow-eyed, broken. I had once believed I could balance both worlds, the safety of Ethan's love and the thrill of Dylan's touch. But balance built on deceit always collapses. And mine had collapsed completely. The morning after Ethan threw me out was the coldest morning of my life. Not because of the weather, but because of the silence inside me. It was the kind of silence that lives beneath your skin, the kind that follows guilt when there is nothing left to say. I sat in my car outside our home for almost an hour before I finally drove away. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I had no plan, nowhere to go. I watched the house from a distance, the white porch we painted together, the rosebush he planted for our anniversary, the curtains we chose after laughing for hours in a store. Every memory stung like salt in a wound. I ended up at a cheap motel on the edge of town. The kind of place where the air smells like bleach and heartbreak. I dropped my suitcase on the floor, sat on the bed, and stared at the blank wall. The silence was unbearable. My phone lay beside me, dark and still. I had no messages. Not from Ethan. Not from Dylan. Not from anyone. I thought about calling my mother, but what would I tell her? That her daughter, who once bragged about a perfect marriage, had destroyed it with her own hands? That the man she had prayed I would never lose now hated me? No, I could not do that. I could not bear her disappointment. Days passed in a blur. I barely ate. I barely slept. The world moved on, but I stayed frozen in that motel room, trapped between regret and reality. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's face, the shock, the betrayal, the pain. His voice echoed in my head like a broken record. You already threw us away, Rachel. I replayed every mistake in slow motion. The first text. The first lie. The first kiss. Each one felt like a domino that led to the next, until everything I had built collapsed in front of me. By the fourth day, I could not take it anymore. I needed to see him. I drove back to our neighborhood late in the evening, parking across the street. The porch light was on, and the curtains were half drawn. For a moment, I imagined walking up the steps, knocking on the door, falling to my knees, and begging him to let me explain again. But then I saw it, through the window. Ethan was not alone. He sat on the couch, and beside him was a woman I did not recognize. She was holding a mug, smiling softly. He laughed. It was faint, but I heard it. That laugh, the one I used to wake up to, the one that once made my world feel safe. My breath hitched. My chest tightened. He looked lighter, freer, like the weight of me was gone. Tears blurred my vision, and I pressed my hand to my mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. I wanted to hate him for moving on so fast, but deep down, I knew he deserved happiness. I was the one who had ruined his peace. I sat there until the lights went out. Then I drove back to the motel, every mile feeling heavier than the last. When I walked in, my phone buzzed for the first time in days. My heart leapt, thinking maybe, just maybe, it was Ethan. But it was Dylan. The message read, "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're okay." I stared at it, numb. "Hope I'm okay?" I whispered bitterly. For a second, I considered replying. But what was there to say? That I had lost everything because of him? That his check-in came too late? I put the phone down and never responded. That night, I stood in front of the mirror. My reflection looked like a stranger, eyes swollen, hair tangled, lips dry. I used to think beauty could protect me, that being wanted could fill the emptiness inside me. But standing there, I realized how wrong I had been. What I had mistaken for passion was simply distraction, an escape from facing myself. The truth was, I had not just betrayed Ethan. I had betrayed the woman I was supposed to be. Weeks passed, and I moved into a small apartment downtown. It was quiet, too quiet. The walls were bare, and my nights were long. Sometimes, I would hear laughter from other apartments and feel an ache deep in my chest. It reminded me of what I once had and what I would never get back. One Saturday afternoon, I went to the grocery store. As I stood in line, I saw a familiar figure near the exit. Ethan. He was with the same woman I had seen before. She held his arm. They looked comfortable, like two people who had found peace in each other's presence. He saw me. Our eyes met for a brief second. My heart stopped. He did not glare. He did not smile. He just nodded, a polite, distant nod. The kind strangers give each other when passing on the street. It was that simple gesture that broke me more than any words could have. That nod told me everything. I was no longer part of his story. I turned away, my eyes stinging. When I got home, I sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried until I could not cry anymore. In the weeks that followed, I tried to rebuild. I threw myself into work, avoiding conversations about my marriage. People asked questions, but I brushed them off with vague answers. We grew apart, I would say. They never needed to know the truth, that I had set fire to something beautiful. Sometimes at night, I replayed our last moments together. I would imagine him opening the door again, imagine that he might still care enough to ask if I was all right. But then I would remember the look in his eyes that night, the quiet finality, and know it was truly over. Months later, I drove by our old house again. The garden was alive, the roses blooming brighter than I had ever seen them. I stopped across the street, the wind rustling through my hair. For a moment, I saw him through the window, standing by the counter, laughing as that woman stirred something on the stove. He looked happy. Peaceful. And for the first time, I accepted that I was not part of that peace. I sat there quietly, whispering into the wind, "I am sorry, Ethan. You deserved better than me." Then I drove away. As the city lights blurred past my windshield, I finally understood something I should have known all along. When you betray love, forgiveness is not guaranteed. Some wounds heal. Others become scars you learn to live with. And me? I would live with mine forever.